Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Get ready because today we are diving right back into the incredible world of Circle of Inevitability. If you're enjoying these audiobook adventures, make sure to leave a like and hit that subscribe button. Grab a snack, settle in, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let's get into it.
Chapter 181, The Loyal CL. Lumian settled back into his seat, taking a casual stance, his gaze locked onto Giant Simon as he inquired.
"And what's the matter?"
Giant Simons cast his light blue eyes over Louis and Sarcoda standing behind Lumian.
"Aren't they Brignier's men? Why would you allow them to tail you? If it were me, I'd put them to work as bouncers."
Louis and Sarcoda exchanged anxious glances when Simon hit the nail on the head. Lumian wanted to applaud, grateful that Simon had provided him with an opportunity to win their trust. However, he couldn't entirely trust Louis and Sarcoda. He had no desire to become a mobster, but he didn't want to be shot in the back, riddled with bullets someday. Lumian smirked once again.
"What do you mean, Brignier's men? I used to work under Brignier. We're all members of the Savoie mob, loyal to the boss. As long as I remain faithful, there's no need to worry about them turning against me."
Louis and Sarcoda nodded repeatedly, impressed by CL's broad-mindedness and demeanor.
"That's right. Baron Brignier changed our status in the Savoie mob and gave us a lot of trust, but we're still members of the Savoie mob. Betraying the boss is out of the question, and it was the boss who commanded us to follow CL and obey his orders."
Simon choked on Lumian's words. After a few seconds, he finally said,
"You may be loyal to the boss, but others might not be. Brignier is ambitious."
"You find Brignier unloyal to the boss? Hidden Blade, red boots. Franca mentioned that Brignier hasn't been obedient lately."
Lumian suddenly felt pity for Gardner Martin, the boss of the Savoie mob. His most capable subordinates lacked loyalty, and his favorite mistress had ulterior motives. The newcomer he had recently promoted turned out to be a spy from another organization. Realizing he couldn't shake off Louis and Sarcoda, two thugs who often accompanied Baron Brignier and had knowledge of various matters, Simon steered the conversation back on track.
"I came here to discuss the dancers. Basic salary. Fucking damn it. Why the bloody hell do we have to give those sluts money every day, even when they don't have a single customer? Franca is overbearing. Just because she's the boss's mistress, she convinced him to agree to such an unreasonable demand. We're mobsters, not a charity. By steam, when I handed money to those women, I felt like a bloody priest. That's fine by me. I only need to give them a few licks each day. But it's 1 vel d'or a day for Salle de Bal Brise. The textile workers in Quartier du Jardin Botanique earn only 1.5 vel d'or a day, and they work from morning till night."
In Trier, hiring female workers cost 55 to 70% of hiring male workers. The most ruthless employers were unafraid of being investigated, and those who dared to employ child labor paid only 15% of an adult man's salary, or even less.
No wonder Franca's beautiful dancers refuse to work on Rue du Rossignol. The prices there are low and the base salary is meager. Why are you cursing like Franca and Jenna? Can vulgarities be contagious? Aurore seemed to curse in the same manner during her occasional bouts of madness.
Lumian deliberately ignored Louis' suggestion and asked with a smile.
"What's your plan?"
Simon's fury remained etched on his face.
"You, me and Black will go to the boss together. We must make him change his mind and rein in Franca. Which of the other mobs pays their dancers a base salary?"
Is he trying to take advantage of my recent takeover of Salle de Bal Brise? Is he inciting me to rebel against the boss? Heh, as Aurore once said, the early worm gets eaten by birds, and ravens who stick their necks out get shot.
Lumian raised his hands, cracking his knuckles with a sly smile.
It's pointless. Franca is the boss's mistress. The boss will undoubtedly heed her. If you want him to change his mind, there's only one way. Become the boss yourself.
"Is this something you should say in front of so many people?"
Lewis, Sarkota, and the others behind Lumian were so terrified that they almost covered their leader's mouth. Giant Simon also appeared taken aback.
What nonsense are you spouting?
Most of his thugs trembled with fear.
What I mean is,
Lumian suddenly seized the table's edge and flung it at Giant Simon. Clang. The table crashed to the ground, and the cups upon it shattered into shards. Giant Simon had already retreated 2 steps, his expression darkening. His subordinates instinctively reached for their revolvers. He looked at Lumian and demanded,
What do you want?
Lumian stood behind the upturned wooden table, seething with anger.
you wretched dogsh, does the boss mean anything to you? How dare you plot a mutiny in secret, attempting to force him to change his orders? Do you truly aspire to be the boss? The boss's commands must be carried out, whether they're good or bad. If there's an issue, you can address it with the boss privately, but you cannot conspire with others to coerce him.
The question exposed Giant Simon's true intentions, leaving him unable to explode in anger or continue inciting CL. He spat out his words.
Damn it, is there something wrong with your brain? When did I say I wanted to force the boss? I merely suggested that everyone should approach the boss and explain that providing a dancer with a base salary is unreasonable. It places a heavy burden on us.
With that, Giant Simon waved his hand, wearing an expression that conveyed difficulty in communicating with CL. He turned and departed, his subordinates trailing after him, descending the staircase. Observing their departure, Lumian inwardly chuckled.
Thank you so much. Tonight the boss will come to know how loyal I am.
Lumian had stumbled upon an opportunity to earn Gardner Martin's trust, and he seized it without hesitation. Putting on a show, he simulated an angry exhale, restraining his emotions. Pointing at the mess on the floor, he commanded Louis and the others.
Clean this up.
Just as Lumian finished speaking, a figure emerged from the shadows near the staircase. It was Jenna, having finished her performance in the dance hall. Jenna wasn't wearing a revealing outfit today. Her rose-colored dress, supported by a petticoat, made her resemble an upside-down flower. Her brownish-yellow hair was tied in a simple bun at the back, with some loose strands cascading gently. The dark circles around her blue eyes were less pronounced, lending her a touch of elegance. A mole adorned the middle of her left cheek. This symbolized elegance. Observing Jenna, Lumian couldn't help but chuckle.
Do the folks in the market district appreciate this style?
He was referring to Jenna's less provocative attire. Jenna smiled smugly.
It works surprisingly well from time to time. Franca mentioned that sometimes, the more unattainable something appears to men, the more they desire it. F times CK. I can't quite fathom that mentality.
What's the matter?
Lumian glanced at the waiters tidying up and found another table to sit at. Jenna took a seat opposite him and smiled.
I'm here to discuss the singing fee for next week. Previously, it was 10 songs per night, 4 Veril d'Or, and a third of the money thrown onto the stage. Lately, it seems I've become more popular than in the past few months.
Lumian pondered for a moment before responding.
Has the poison spur mob grown suspicious of you, making it difficult for you to perform at their dance halls?
FCK, that infuriates me. Couldn't you have disguised yourself better? You were identified so easily, and it ended up implicating me.
Jenna replied indignantly. A mischievous grin played at the corners of Lumian's mouth.
Starting from today, you will still perform 10 songs per night, but the fee will be increased to 10 Veril d'Or. You can keep 2/3 of the money thrown onto the stage.
Louis, who stood behind Lumian, felt a pang of sorrow. Although Little Minx didn't sing here every night, she frequented the place several times a week. This change would result in Salle de Balbrise, earning 2,000 Veril d'Or less annually. However, it seemed that Little Minx had played a significant role in the assassination of Hammerate, the mob leader. As a consequence, she had lost the opportunity to perform in Poison Spur Mob's territory, amounting to a loss of over 1,000 Veril d'Or per year. Jenna appeared quite content. Receiving 10 vril d'or for 10 songs and keeping 2/3 of the money thrown on stage was the most generous treatment in the underground singer industry. She smiled and said,
I can only come for 3 days next week, from Friday to Sunday night.
Seeking opportunities at dance halls in other districts?
Lumian inquired casually. Jenna shook her head.
No, I don't have that much time to bloody sing. I have other things to attend to.
Isn't being an underground singer your profession?
Lumian inquired curiously.
This is just a part-time gig.
Jenna emphasized with a smirk.
My main job is being the shared mistress of Lion, CL, and Red Boots, Franca.
Louis's legs nearly buckled at the jest. In his mind, Franca was a possessive woman. She had taught a lesson to any man who dared to snatch Little Minx away from her. If the boss truly became involved with Little Minx, he would undoubtedly face Red Boots' fury.
This fellow has other identities?
Lumian's thoughts raced as he asked thoughtfully.
Is Jenna your real name or an alias?
Part-time underground singers often adopted an alias to avoid impacting their other occupations. Jenna's lips curled up and she blinked before replying.
What do you think, Monsieur CL?
She deliberately emphasized the name Ciel, implying that he, too, used an alias. With that, Jenna rose from her seat, leaned across the wooden table, and whispered into Lumian's ear.
After hearing your conversation with Giant Simon, I have a sincere suggestion. The less loyal someone is, the more they boast about their loyalty. Your performance went a bit overboard, hey?
Jenna straightened up, wearing an air of pride, and confidently walked toward the staircase. Finally, it was her turn to educate CL.
Is that so?
Lumian pondered as he watched Jenna's departing figure.
Aren't you wearing perfume today?
Jenna turned around, her expression brimming with delight as she inquired.
So you didn't notice me ascending the stairs?
Chapter 182, Truth Serum.
What do you think, Madame Jenna?
Lumian grinned, throwing Jenna's own words back at her.
Damn it.
Jenna exclaimed, raising her hand in frustration before turning around with a scowl and storming back downstairs. Lumian pondered for a few moments, tapping the table in front of him. He turned to Louis and Sarkoda and said,
Bring me a glass of fennel absinthe.
Being the protector of Salle de Balbrise had its perks, and his meals here were on the house. As he remembered that he had to hand over most of the dance hall's profits to the boss and bribe the police, Lumian felt less inclined to be frugal. No matter how difficult things became, he couldn't let himself suffer. He had to do his utmost to make the boss suffer instead. Lumian drank 2 glasses of the bitter, mind-altering light green liquid and remained at Salle de Balbrise until nearly midnight. Standing up, he turned to Louis and Sarkoda and declared,
I'm going to bed. Wait until the dance hall closes before you head home. If anyone causes trouble, throw them out. If you can't handle them alone, gather everyone and be bold enough to take action. Don't worry, I'll take responsibility if anything goes wrong.
What he left unsaid was,
If I can't handle the responsibility, I'll leave it for the boss to worry about.
Salle de Balbrise stayed open until 2 a.m. every day, usually opening between 10:30 a.m. and 11 a.m.
Yes, boss.
Sarkoda and Louis replied in unison. Upon returning to his bedroom, Lumian lingered for another 15 minutes before grabbing the brown suitcase containing Aurore's grimoires. He squeezed out of the window and smoothly landed on the ground from the second floor. He walked through the shadows, turning from Avenue du Marché into Rue des Blouses Blanches, and entered the safe house he had rented previously. After hiding the grimoires and releasing some sulfur to repel the bugs, Lumian left the room and turned into an alley behind Rue des Blouses Blanches. He planned to take a detour to Auberge du Coq Doré, where he would spend the night. After walking a dozen steps, he noticed a pile of trash beside a barricade. Scavengers and cleaners wouldn't come until the next morning to clean it up. At that moment, it had become a haven for rats, cockroaches, flies, and stray dogs. Seeing the rats and stray dogs, Lumian suddenly remembered something. Among the 3 metal canisters he had acquired from the perverted Hedzi, one remained unidentified.
I might as well give it a try.
Lumian nodded to himself imperceptibly. Relying on his exceptional skills, lightning-fast reflexes, nimble movements, and keen observation, he swiftly stepped on a rat with grayish-black fur. He crouched down, retrieved the slightly heavy metal canister, and poured some odorless, colorless liquid into the prey's mouth. The rat let out a quick squeak, but aside from that, nothing out of the ordinary happened.
Considering the pervert's methods, I thought it might be an aphrodisiac, but it doesn't seem like it. That makes sense. That pervert possesses beyonder powers that stimulate desire. He wouldn't need an additional canister with the same effect.
Lumian lifted his right foot, watching as the rat scurried back to its companions. It joined the swarm while emitting continuous squeaks, but it didn't do anything else.
Strange.
Lumian stared at the rat for a prolonged moment, unable to discern anything significant. Suddenly, a voice as clear as crystal rang out from behind him.
What are you up to?
Lumian whirled around and beheld Red Boots Franca emerging from the shadows at the far end of the alley. She still sported her trademark red boots, off-white breeches, and a black and white checkered blouse. Her flaxen hair was neatly tied up.
Why are you here?
Lumian was about to inquire, but he promptly recalled that Franca resided at 3 Rue des Blouses Blanches. He could only respond honestly.
Conducting an experiment.
What kind of experiment?
Franca approached with curiosity. Her eyes, resembling sparkling lakes, surveyed the rats before she let out a chuckle.
Has your sister taught you to experiment on rats?
Are you referring to laboratory rats?
Lumian found it easy to converse with Franca. Many words required no further explanation. He then said,
Didn't Jenna inform you that after I disposed of the pervert, I obtained 3 metal canisters? One contained gas that could render people unconscious. I depleted it when I eliminated Hammer 8. The second canister contained an accompanying gaseous stimulant, and there's still a fair amount left. The third canister holds a liquid. I'm unsure of its properties, hence I experimented on these rats.
Understanding dawned on Franca's face.
So it's a leftover from that pervert.
She then asked with anticipation,
Could it be an aphrodisiac?
Why do you share my thoughts, madam?
Lumian gestured towards the squeaking rat, finding amusement in the situation.
It doesn't seem so. You appear somewhat disappointed?
Franca didn't conceal her feelings and let out a sigh.
Indeed. If it were truly an aphrodisiac, how intriguing it would be.
If it were indeed an aphrodisiac, what would you want to use it for?
Lumian suddenly harbored suspicions that Franca intended to do something to Jenna. Franca glanced at him.
Damn it, are you accusing me in your mind? Do you think I have no moral boundaries? I hope it's an aphrodisiac. My main curiosity lies in experiencing its effects and effectiveness. I would consume some myself and have Gardner try it as well. If his mistresses desire, they can partake too. Do you understand the pleasures of flirtation and amusement?
Lumian was momentarily at a loss for words. After a few seconds, he responded,
You Triarians certainly excel at games.
I'm not a Triarian.
Franca retorted.
But I concur with your statement.
She turned her gaze towards the metal canister in Lumian's grasp.
Shall I assist you in discovering its properties?
Aren't you concerned about the dangers?
Lumian was somewhat taken aback. It remained uncertain whether this vial of liquid was a slow-acting poison or a vessel for curses. Franca chuckled and replied,
You truly need to supplement your knowledge of mysticism. I intend to employ divination. Witches possess considerable divinatory abilities.
Aurore's grimoires made no mention of it. They solely documented the witch's potion, which causes gender transformation. It speculates that every witch excels in spells.
Yes, those proficient in spells shouldn't be lacking in divination.
Lumian handed the liquid-filled canister to Franca. Franca walked to the edge of the alley and halted behind a 5-story building. She extended her right hand and traced it back and forth on the dim glass window. Simultaneously, she softly recited something in Hermes. Even with Lumian's acute hearing, he could only catch a few words.
Spirituality, inquiry, answer.
A few seconds later, the glass window darkened and deepened, as though it led to an enigmatic, unknown world. Franca stepped back, raised the metal canister, and spoke in Intis.
What is the purpose of the liquid inside?
From the depths of the glass window, an aged voice responded.
Induces an urge to confess.
Franca nodded, expressed gratitude, and concluded the divination. As the glass window returned to its original state, she turned to Lumian and stated,
It appears to be a concoction akin to a truth serum.
Truth serum?
Lumian inquired. Aurore had never mentioned such a term. Franca casually explained.
It's a serum that compels people to speak the truth. Once their desire to spill their secrets is triggered, along with the interrogator's questioning, although there may be a fair amount of nonsense, it becomes exceedingly challenging to lie. What they utter should stem from their innermost desires.
Confiding their desires, similar to the pervert's other abilities, involving diverse human yearnings, as expected of a boon from the mother tree of desire. This could prove quite useful for a beyonder like me, who lacks proficiency in spirit communication and divination.
Lumian retrieved the metal canister from Franca. Franca glanced around and queried with a smile.
Why did you choose Rue des Blouse Blanches for the experiment? Shouldn't your activities be centered around Avenue du Marché and Rue Anarchie?
Lumian withheld nothing.
I rented a safe house here to safeguard my sister's grimoires. I fear they may be damaged if I am targeted.
Very cautious.
Franca nodded approvingly.
Your sister is fortunate to have a brother like you. I used to have a brother too. He was conceited, enjoyed flaunting his skills, and lacked practicality. I yearned to teach him a lesson every day.
She trailed off midway, her gaze falling upon her red boots.
Used to have. Does that imply he is no longer present?
Lumian keenly sensed Franca's unspoken meaning and promptly understood the reason behind her sudden despondency. After a few seconds, Franca's smile returned.
Your sister must trust you too. Otherwise, she wouldn't have revealed our organization to you. Although we never explicitly mentioned keeping the research society a secret from our families, hardly anyone ever discloses it. After all.
Franca fell silent once more, her smile taking on a bitter tinge.
After all, what?
Lumian was perplexed, but he refrained from asking. Instead, he simply elaborated on Aurore's rationale.
We were caught in a calamity back then, unsure of who would survive and who would perish. That's why my sister divulged some secrets to me, hoping they would prove useful in the future.
Understood.
Franca nodded, regaining her composure. She smiled and remarked,
I thought you came to Rue des Blouse Blanches in search of me, eager to learn about mysticism.
It's too late now.
Lumian was already feeling weary. Franca clicked her tongue and chuckled.
I won't do anything to you. It's too mad and shameful to engage in such activities with someone who knows my true gender.
Is that so? I was afraid that once you got accustomed to it, the shame would only heighten your excitement.
Lumian suspected that Franca, who could be swayed by the notion of life is short, why not give it a try, would engage in more unforeseen endeavors. After bidding farewell to the demoness, he returned to Auberge du Coq Doré. Nothing eventful occurred in Le Marché du Quartier du Gentleman until Thursday. At 8 p.m., Lumian arrived at 19 Rue Scheer on Avenue du Boulevard and met Mr. K in the basement. Mr. K gestured towards the three assistants holding silver trays behind him and stated, There are a total of 3 mystical items, each priced between 15,000 Verrol d'Or and 20,000. Make your selection. Chapter 183. 3 Items. Upon entering the basement, Lumian's eyes immediately fell upon 3 silver plates holding the items. There was an unassuming white glove, a pair of gold-rimmed glasses with a tea-colored tint, and a shiny golden button. Observing Lumian's interest in the mystical objects, Mr. K, seated in a red armchair, introduced them in a low, raspy voice. That glove is Circus. It grants you some weak but peculiar mystical abilities. It can conjure a gust of wind, create fog, and use bursts of light to mess with your target's vision. By touching them, you can freeze your enemies. You can also open most doors without a key. It can even guide you through solid walls. These techniques suit your need for mysticism, but remember, carrying it will make you lose your way more often. And sometimes, getting lost brings misfortune. Price is 18,000 Veril d'Or.
Sounds like the Sequence 8 Trickmaster of the Apprentice pathway mentioned in Aurore's grimoires. Although the powers aren't formidable, if used as support alongside traps or my close combat skills and revolver shots, they can yield miraculous results.
Lumian found solace in the positive effects of the circus glove, compensating for his lack of mysticism and helplessness in certain situations. However, the negative effects were dire. For hunters who relied on tracking and pathfinding, losing their way frequently meant losing their strengths entirely. Misfortune could strike at any moment, even without wearing the glove. Merely having it in his pocket would affect Lumian. Mr. K shifted his attention to the brown, gold-rimmed glasses and addressed Lumian. "Do you remember the painting from the gathering?"
Painting?
Lumian's mind immediately conjured the image of the dizzying oil painting. The painting, reputedly created by a beyonder before his demise, boasted vibrant colors, a peculiar pattern, and a hallucinatory scene. It seemed as if the artist had descended into madness before his death.
I do.
Lumian nodded. Mr. K continued, "After the painting's owner passed away, his beyonder attributes together with a strange power fused into his glasses, creating a unique mystical item. It allows the wearer to perceive things invisible to the naked eye. Occasionally, one can glimpse the truth of this world to some extent." Aurore's cautionary words echoed in Lumian's mind.
Don't see what you shouldn't see. Don't listen to what you shouldn't hear.
Internally, Lumian couldn't help but criticize.
Isn't this pair of glasses doing the exact opposite? It's like a weapon of self-destruction. These items seem to have nothing to do with my two needs.
Mr. K glanced at Lumian, his voice still low and raspy in the confined basement. By perceiving the world from a different perspective and witnessing the once invisible, the wearer will be seized by an uncontrollable urge to paint. Each painting produced will possess supernatural effects. For instance, a painting of an ocean will make onlookers feel as if they're drowning. In a similar vein, if you apply various cosmetics to your face instead of painting on canvas, you can achieve an excellent disguise. Anyone scrutinizing your face will be convinced that it's your true appearance, albeit temporarily. Remember, once you've painted a new face, avoid looking in the mirror. Otherwise, you'll believe it to be your real self. Slowly but surely, your body and mind will transform until you become an entirely different person. Much like this, you can't sustain that newfound countenance indefinitely. After a span of 3 hours or more, your sense of self will gradually succumb to its influence until you wholeheartedly believe that you are one and the same. Upon analyzing the possible beyonder domain of the mystical item, Lumian couldn't help but speculate.
It sounds akin to the hypnosis and suggestions of the psychiatrist pathway, but it differs greatly in other aspects. Considering the demise of the painter, could it be a power or aura left behind by an evil god?
Mr. K fixed his gaze on the brown glasses. Its previous owner was a lawyer, which enables it to manipulate the target's thoughts, cognition, and conclusions to a certain extent through words, actions, or a series of processes. You can probably surmise its negative effects. Seeing what should remain unseen and perceiving the truth of the world without adequate protection exposes you to unknown dangers. Perhaps, one day, you may meet a peculiar death like the painter, leaving behind an enigmatic painting. The price is 15,000 Veril d'Or.
Corresponding to a Sequence 9 lawyer?
The crucial aspect lies in the peculiar power associated with it. Yes, it doesn't fully reflect a lawyer's abilities. Aurore's grimoires describe lawyers as masters of eloquence and reasoning, adept at uncovering loopholes in rules and exploiting their opponents' weaknesses. They create an advantageous atmosphere to achieve ultimate victory. They can influence judgment, thoughts, and conclusions through their words, actions, and established processes. Additionally, they excel at utilizing the power of order. Lumian mentally reviewed the relevant mystical knowledge. However, he remained uncertain about the lawyer trait, particularly how to harness the power of order. Aurore lacked knowledge in that regard as well. In essence, the brown gold-rimmed glasses fulfilled Lumian's need for better disguises. They also provided mystical means that required preparation, but were less troublesome than the alms monk's elaborate rituals. The only issue was its perilous nature. Lumian contemplated, but didn't reach a final decision. He awaited Mr. K's introduction of the golden button. Before long, Mr. K's raspy voice resounded again. It's called Flare. It originated from a deceased light suppliant. It grants additional buffs such as courage and strength through singing. It enables you to sense the presence of undead creatures and evil entities. You can also employ spells and rituals from the Sun domain, making it highly effective against undead souls and similar targets. After wearing it, you'll feel compelled to sing. Darkness and cold become unbearable, and you'll yearn for sunlight and warmth. If you haven't removed it after half an hour, you'll become a devoted follower of the eternal blazing sun, earnestly praising the sun. The price is 20,000 Veldor.
If it can resolve my issue of resisting the undead, the negative effects are bearable. The problem lies in the limited viable targets.
Lumian pondered deeply, torn between which item to choose. His rationale suggested opting for Flare or Circus, yet he couldn't make a decisive choice. The brown, gold-rimmed glasses catered to both of his needs and were his preferred option. By wearing them solely before disguising himself and creating paintings with supernatural effects in a safe environment, he could effectively evade most of the negative consequences. Thus, he would avoid witnessing things he shouldn't and the so-called truth of the world. In essence, it wasn't an item that needed constant donning. Lumian could choose the opportune moment to utilize it. This way, he could proactively construct a spiritual barrier, screening out anomalies, similar to when he performed the summoning dance. Considering his seal, the quote-quote inevitability, and the occasional summoning dance, Lumian didn't believe an additional trait would worsen matters.
I want those glasses.
Mr. K appeared taken aback by Lumian's choice. After a few seconds, he queried, "Are you certain?"
I'm certain.
Lumian produced a small cloth bag brimming with banknotes and meticulously counted out 15,000 Veldor. Mr. K refrained from further persuasion, emitting a raspy chuckle. "You're even crazier than I presumed." There was a hint of admiration in his tone. Instructing the attendant to accept the 15,000 Veldor and hand over the brown glasses to Lumian, Mr. K nodded and remarked, "You can give them a test run here. It's safe enough." Lumian caressed the frame and discovered that the seemingly metallic material had an odd rubbery texture.
I'll dub you the mystery prying glasses.
Lumian pondered, recalling his sister's Beyonder pathway. In the ensuing moment, he placed the brown, gold-rimmed glasses on the bridge of his nose. Almost instantly, he beheld a multitude of scenes from various angles. The mottled ceiling, bloodstains in the corners, Mr. K's back that should have been out of sight, and the attendants stationed in the corridor. Lumian also caught sight of a blot of darkness, a silhouette, a gaze emanating from an unknown source, and a visage concealed within the shadows. Beneath the hood lay black, feathery hair, delicate features, sunken eyes, dark orbs, and ageless skin, only visible from below.
Is that Mr. K's face?
Lumian experienced a sudden revelation. Images from different perspectives flooded his mind, leaving him feeling lightheaded. His state of mind grew increasingly abnormal, and an insatiable urge to capture everything overcame him. Hastily, Lumian removed the mystery prying glasses, and his vision reverted to normal, yet the compulsion to draw lingered within him. Exhaling deeply, he declared,
"It's tolerable."
Mr. K offered a brief warning. Try to employ it in familiar and secure situations. After bidding farewell to Mr. K and departing the psychic's headquarters, Lumian boarded a carriage back to Le Marché du Quartier du Gentleman. En route, as he passed through Quartier de la Cathédrale Commémorative, a thought struck him.
I must gather some canvases, brushes, and paints. Even though my skills are limited to sketching and not particularly exceptional, the quality of the painting shouldn't influence the attached supernatural effects. Perhaps, the more distorted and grotesque it appears, the better the outcome.
15 minutes later, Lumian alighted from the carriage ahead of schedule and located a shop specializing in oil painting supplies. Upon hearing the price, he couldn't help but inquire,
What, 160 Veraldor? A single canvas costs 160 Veraldor?
Chapter 184, Painting. When Lumian stepped back into the Auberge du Coq Doré, his mind was still filled with the exorbitant cost of painting supplies. Among his colleagues at the Salle de Balbrise, Charlie's monthly salary as a waiter was considered decent. However, it would take him 2 months of foregoing food and drink just to afford a single roll of canvas. Lumian couldn't help but view painters as a destitute lot. How could they ever afford canvases, brushes, paints, wooden frames, human models, and all the other expenses that came with their craft? Perhaps they relied on financial support from their families just to get by. Shaking off these thoughts, Lumian closed the door behind him and carefully placed the stack of items on the wooden table. Eventually, he resigned himself to the fact that he couldn't afford proper canvases. Instead, he settled for the cheapest brushes, paints, paper, and other necessities. The truth was, Lumian didn't aspire to be a painter or have his work displayed in an exhibition. He simply needed a medium to imbue the supernatural power obtained from the mystery-prying glasses. The quality of the paint, the possibility of cracking, the fading over time, or even his painting skills were all inconsequential matters. And so, Lumian spent a total of 30 Veraldor acquiring his modest supplies. Mixing a palette of vibrant colors and unfurling a flexible sheet of white paper, Lumian prepared himself for the ritual ahead. With the sanctified silver dagger in hand, he crafted a wall of spirituality within room 207. His intention was to explore what he could draw and observe the effects it would yield. Based on the reaction of Madame Magician's messenger at Auberge du Coq Doré, Lumian surmised that there was nothing particularly abnormal about this place. The only notable issue seemed to be the abundance of bedbugs. Susanna Matisse's predicament most likely had its origins in Théâtre de l'Ancienne Cage, à Pigeons, or perhaps even an underground cavern. Taking a slow breath, Lumian retrieved the brown glasses with golden rims and carefully placed them upon the bridge of his nose. In an instant, the world around him seemed to spin, as if he had plummeted from the sky into the depths of the earth. During this disorienting journey, Lumian beheld the inverted motel with its occupants moving about in a similar fashion, an underground bar, roots of trees and soil extending beneath the surface, rats lurking in the corners, and vermin scurrying about. Deeper and deeper he fell, enduring the nauseating sensation of weightlessness. And then he caught sight of an immense network of brownish-green roots stretching in all directions, reaching into the distance and vanishing into the void.
Ugh.
Lumian nearly expelled the contents of his stomach. The remnants of his unfinished dinner rose to his throat, threatening to escape. Swiftly, he removed the mystery-prying glasses and fought the urge to vomit. Fueled by an insatiable desire to draw, Lumian picked up a paintbrush, dipped it into the paint, and began sketching upon the blank canvas. Unbeknownst to him, his spirituality infused the brush with an increasing vigor. After a few minutes, Lumian halted his strokes and gazed upon his creation.
What in the world have I drawn?
The question echoed in his mind. Upon careful observation, he managed to discern the subject of his artwork, a triangular house with a grayish-blue hue, its roof adorned with green trees, and rain resembling mud. Lumian stared at the painting for a moment and suddenly felt an itching sensation on the back of his hand. Unable to resist, he scratched it, only to witness his skin turning red and swollen, accompanied by an all-over itchiness.
Could this be the beyonder influence of the painting?
Lumian's heart stirred as he looked away, attempting to soothe the irritation through the friction of his clothes. But his efforts were in vain, and he couldn't help but scratch a few more times. As he averted his gaze from the childlike graffiti of an oil painting, the itching gradually subsided and eventually vanished.
It is indeed a problem with the painting,
Lumian thought, letting out a sigh of relief. The urge to paint had vanished as well. He turned around and contemplated the details.
I have to stare at the painting for at least 3 seconds before my body itches. It's challenging to use it in battle. I can't just stick it on my face, can I? If I use it as a trap, it might have some utility. I wonder if there are any paintings that can be used without drawing the target's attention.
After careful consideration, Lumian resolved to make another attempt. He donned the mystery prying glasses once more, and the experience was nearly identical. However, this time he also glimpsed deep darkness and shadowy figures moving within it. Amidst the waves of nausea, Lumian removed his brown, gold-rimmed glasses, retrieved a fresh sheet of paper, and took up a paintbrush. This time he didn't surrender to impulsive strokes, but instead focused on visualizing what he desired and endeavored to bring the drawing closer to the image in his mind. With this approach, Lumian crafted a golden-red sun surrounded by a vibrant circle of colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. As he finished, room 207 suddenly warmed and the chill in the air dissipated.
It seems to have a simple exorcism effect.
Lumian wasn't entirely certain. He sat on the edge of the bed, carefully observing the changes. Over time, the warmth, which initially evoked restlessness and unease, began to fade. Lumian attempted to fold the painting, keeping its back facing outward. The warmth promptly vanished, and the loss of spiritual essence within the painting slowed to a barely noticeable pace.
I should be able to preserve it for about 2 months. When unfurled, it can only be used for 3 days at most. Yes, this is akin to an alternative method of creating Beyonder weapons.
Lumian estimated, recalling his previous experiences. Drawing 2 paintings in quick succession had placed a considerable burden on his spirituality. After taking a short break, Lumian proceeded with his 3rd experiment. This time, he switched to using makeup-related painting tools. Putting on the mystery prying glasses once again, he braced himself for the sensation of spiraling into the depths. In the midst of it, Lumian caught sight of several indistinct figures lurking in the shadows. Removing the mystical item, he began smearing various substances on his face, carefully tracing lines with the aid of the glass window, which was illuminated by the light of the carbide lamp. Similar to his previous attempt, Lumian made an effort to maintain control over his makeup, but occasionally his instincts took over. Reflecting on the mirror, he saw his appearance becoming worn and haggard. His eyebrows appeared disheveled, his cheekbones slightly more pronounced, and his lips a touch fuller. It felt as if he were looking at a stranger. Hastily averting his gaze, he drew the curtain to conceal the result of his painting. Having packed away the itchiness and sun paintings along with the various tools, Lumian decided it was time to venture out and verify the effects. As he made his way to Salle de Balbris, he noticed Jenna engaging in flamboyant gestures while singing at the top of her lungs, and Charlie, who had just delivered some drinks to the outskirts of the dance floor. The thugs paid no attention to Lumian, and none of them addressed him as their boss. Feeling a sense of relief, Lumian walked over to Charlie's side, gave his shoulder a friendly pat, and smiled.
Good evening.
Charlie, clad in a white shirt and black vest, turned around, returning the smile as he asked,
Good evening, monsieur. Would you like something to drink?
Deliberately, Lumian inquired.
Don't you recognize me?
Caught off guard, Charlie's eyes widened, and for a few seconds he gazed at the distant gas wall lamp. Suddenly, a smile spread across his face, and he exclaimed in astonishment.
It's you. Praise the sun. How long has it been since we last met? Just wait a moment. I'll come to you as soon as I'm not so busy.
Charlie pointed towards the bar counter and bid Lumian farewell.
This kid's acting skills are quite impressive.
Lumian chuckled with satisfaction.
He didn't even recognize his own boss, me.
Shifting his gaze, Lumian approached Jenna's stage, patiently waiting for her to finish singing a song filled with vulgar lyrics. As soon as Jenna finished collecting the copper and silver coins from the stage and descended, Lumian eagerly greeted her and exclaimed,
You sang magnificently. Can I treat you to a drink?
Jenna immediately put on a cautious expression. Ever since the incident with that perverted Hedzi, she couldn't afford to be careless around any audience member who approached her. She worried about encountering another unpleasant situation. For a few seconds, she examined Lumian's face and forced a smile to conceal her wariness.
I must preserve my voice for my next song. Help me out by having another drink.
With a wink, Jenna approached the two mobsters guarding the stage, seeking their assistance. The mobsters didn't dare offend Showy Diva, who was rumored to be their boss and Red Boots lover. Stepping forward, they positioned themselves between Lumian and Jenna. Seizing the opportunity, Jenna made her way to the lounge near the bar counter. Before leaving, she glanced at Lumian's hair color and scrutinized his face intently for a moment. She muttered to herself,
Bloody hell, is this some sort of fashion trend now?
Lumian happily averted his gaze and turned toward the staircase leading to the cafe. The two vigilant mobsters guarding the area stopped him.
Very dutiful.
Lumian smiled and replied,
Just going for a cup of coffee.
After observing Lumian closely for a few seconds, the two mobsters stepped aside. Entering the cafe and noticing that Louis and Sarkota had nothing to do, Lumian made his way to the washroom. He didn't dare look at himself in the mirror. Instead, he splashed tap water on his face and rubbed it a few times, gradually removing his makeup. When he was done, he looked at the mirror and saw his pale and weary reflection staring back at him.
It drains my spirituality quite a bit. I even painted 2 artworks earlier.
Lumian thought to himself, regaining his composure before leaving the washroom. Louis glanced around and stood up in surprise.
Boss, when did you return?
Just now.
Lumian replied, pointing towards the corridor.
I'm going to get some rest.
Understood, boss.
Louis and Sarkota responded obediently, refraining from questioning further. Lumian entered his room, compelled himself to freshen up, and settled down on the bed, drifting into sleep. In his dream, he experienced the unbearable sensation of free-falling from mid-air towards the ground. As he plummeted, the earth beneath him unexpectedly cracked open, revealing a sea of raging flames. Lumian felt a searing and piercing pain in his mind. He snapped his eyes open, sitting up and gasping for breath. In that moment, the room was enveloped in darkness and silence. Only a faint glow of crimson moonlight filtered through the curtains, casting a dim light upon the desk beside the window. Chapter 185, Missing Goods.
Why did I have such a dream? It felt eerily real.
Lumian collected himself and assessed his condition, but found nothing amiss. Yet, in his dream, he felt as though he was once again wearing the mystery prying glasses, and they revealed even more. After pondering for a while, Lumian suspected that the negative effects of wearing the mystery prying glasses 3 times in a row still lingered. They seemed to have seeped into his subconscious, manifesting in his dream within the confines of Salle de Balbrise, an ancient burial ground.
It appears that something is truly amiss beneath the surface here.
Lumian sighed inwardly. He rose from his bed, donned his coat, and resolved to spend the night elsewhere to test his hypothesis. Under the cover of darkness, with Salle de Balbrise devoid of any illumination, Lumian followed the shadows along the roadside and returned to Auberge du Coq Doré, its main entrance locked. For Lumian, this posed no obstacle. He didn't try rousing the irritable Madame Fels by knocking on the door. Instead, he circled around to the side, traced the pipe, and climbed onto the balcony on the 2nd floor. In room 207, Lumian slept until 6 in the morning. He experienced only 2 sporadic, ordinary dreams.
So it was indeed the ancient bones buried deep beneath Salle de Balbrise that triggered the residual powers of the mystery prying glasses within me.
Lumian sat up, a mixture of delight and disappointment washing over him. His original plan was to use the mystery prying glasses to create 1 or 2 supernatural paintings each day, accumulating them for future needs. However, it seemed that frequent use of the glasses was ill-advised. He would have to wait until the lingering negative effects dissipated before attempting further experiments. Otherwise, he risked something dreadful and bizarre happening over time, possibly leading to a strange demise akin to the lawyer who had left the glasses behind, leaving behind only an eerie oil painting with enduring abnormal effects.
Tonight, I shall sleep within Salle de Balbrise, and ascertain whether the negative effects have dissipated. In the future, I must refrain from wearing the glasses more than twice in a brief span of time. These are the details Mr. K neglected to mention. Yes, I must experience them firsthand. Only through first-hand experience can I truly comprehend.
Lumian rose energetically and made his way to the washroom to freshen up. It being still early, many of the tenants were still abed, and the morning remained tranquil, devoid of the usual clamor over access to the washroom. From time to time, Madame Fels would ascend the stairs to inspect the water meters on each floor, ensuring no one wasted the precious resource. A contract had been inked between Auberge du Coq Doré and the Imperial Water Supply Company, stipulating a daily allowance of no less than 250 liters and no more than 500 liters of water. The cost amounted to 100 verres d'or per year. Leisurely, Lumian strolled to the café on Rue des Blouses Blanches. He indulged in delectable treats like sablé cookies and brioche, a softer variation of croissants. Afterwards, he sought out a place for exercise. Upon returning to Auberge du Coq Doré, he spotted Charlie, sporting a linen shirt and black trousers, seated on the steps outside the entrance, relishing a mouthful of meatloaf, accompanied by an apple whiskey sour.
So early?
Lumian inquired, a smile playing on his lips. Salle de Balbrise closed its doors at 2 a.m., and the morning had yet to reach 8:30 a.m. Uncertain whether to hastily rise and greet his employer or engage in the usual casual conversation, Charlie hesitated for a moment before standing up, a sheepish smile on his face.
I think I'll catch a bit more sleep before heading back to the dance hall. I don't think I can keep doing this. I reckon there ought to be some time when we don't have to sleep or work. Otherwise, it feels.
Salle de Balbrise opened at 10:30 a.m.
Feels like we're mere machines built for work, devoid of a life to call our own?
Lumian finished Charlie's sentence, lending him a helping hand.
Exactly. That's spot on.
Charlie agreed.
You're quite the refined individual, you know. Sometimes, you don't seem like a mobster at all. I mean, not like the leader of the Savoy mob. You come across as more civilized.
Had everything gone according to plan, I would have been studying at a university in Quartier de la Cathédrale Commémorative. I would be spending time chatting with my classmates and exploring the depths of underground Trier.
Lumian's heart sank as he focused his attention on Charlie. This was the method he used to observe whether Susanna Matisse's issue still lingered and when it would rear its head.
What are you staring at?
Charlie stammered nervously.
Do you see something amiss?
Lumian eased his worry. His luck appears to be relatively normal and stable. He smiled, raising his right hand and giving a wave behind Charlie's back.
Good morning, Susanna.
Charlie spun around, eyes wide open, scrutinizing every detail. A few seconds later, he exhaled and turned back, forcing a smile. He addressed Lumian.
You're just messing with me again.
That name remained a haunting nightmare. He couldn't shake off any time soon.
I'm strengthening your mental endurance. This way, if something truly occurs, you won't panic and find yourself unable to devise a solution.
Lumian earnestly patted Charlie's shoulder. Moments before 10:30 a.m., Lumian made his way back to Salle de Balbrise. Upon his arrival, Louis and Sarkoda approached simultaneously, their voices merging into one as they spoke.
Boss, something's up.
What's the matter?
Lumian inquired with a smile, seemingly oblivious to the anxiety and unease radiating from his two subordinates. Louis glanced towards the staircase, lowering his voice.
Red Boots, Giant, and Rat are all here. It must be something serious.
Every leader present? Lumian pondered his recent actions and found it hard to believe that he hadn't offended all the leaders of the Savoy mob.
I've been on my best behavior these past few days.
Louis confirmed with a solemn nod.
Indeed.
Lumian ascended the second-floor stairs nonchalantly, where Franca and the others awaited. Franca had swapped her footwear for darker red boots. She sported light-colored pants and a trendy dark skirt that had gained popularity in Trier recently. Completing her ensemble was a more masculine formal attire. With her right leg crossed over her left, Franca grinned at Lumian as he approached. To her right was Baron Bernier, donned in a formal suit and top hat. On her left was a slender-faced man, barely reaching a height of 1.6 meters, boasting a pair of rat-like whiskers. He wore a dark brown shirt that fell short, and his thick, grayish-black hair framed his countenance. His dark blue eyes revealed a trace of anxiety.
Rat, Christo.
Baron Brignier courteously introduced Lumian to the thin-faced man. Baron Brignier then gestured towards the man seated opposite him.
Blood palm black?
Black possessed brown hair, blue eyes, and a round face. He appeared to be in his early 30s and had a warm smile that hardly resembled that of a mob leader. Clad in attire leaning more towards formality, his hands were large, with clearly defined bones beneath the surface. He held a slowly smoldering cigar.
Good morning, everyone.
Lumian dragged an armchair closer and settled in, positioning himself nearly a meter away from the table, assuming the air of someone in control. Giant? Simon glanced at him, took a drag from his cigarette, and exhaled a cloud of grayish-blue smoke.
Christo met with some trouble and requires our assistance.
What sort of trouble?
Lumian directed his gaze towards Rat Christo. Christo played a vital role in Salad Balbrise's lucrative business. Despite the premium he charged for the smuggled liquor he peddled, its lack of taxation made it significantly cheaper than the wholesale liquor stores in Trier. Moreover, a substantial portion of the alcohol Christo dealt with was moonshine, cleverly adorned with labels from relatively renowned brands and origins. Gritting his teeth, Christo, who bore a striking resemblance to a rat, spoke up.
I've lost a shipment underground. The delivery men and escorts have vanished. Damn it, my younger brother was among them. His wife and child are in tears at my place.
Something has transpired in underground Trier. Smuggling operations are divided into carriers and armed protection? That's right. Ostatrul had mentioned helping others transport illicit books. Horse-drawn carriages are useless in underground Trier. They rely solely on manual labor. Lumian nodded subtly and inquired,
What kind of goods?
A batch of red wine and brandy, along with some blackfish.
Rat? Christo couldn't help but slam the table.
Damn it, we've taken that route countless times. Nothing ever happened, nor did we encounter those hyenas.
The term hyenas referred to the quarry police, who specialized in cracking down on smuggling activities and maintained order in the underground. Observing Lumian's confusion, Baron Brignier casually explained,
Blackfish refers to firearms.
Among the mob's top 5 lucrative ventures, the bootleg alcohol supply chain ranks second. Firearms, due to low demand, brought in the least profit. The casino business, which was the most lucrative, wasn't particularly favored in the market district, given the modest incomes of the local population. The money one could extract from the patrons was rather limited. Compared to gambling, which required wit, those who toiled all day preferred indulging in cheap liquor, gyrating their bodies, and seeking solace in the company of captivating dancers. Regarding the sale of psychotropic drugs, the police department in Trier cracked down heavily on it. Following repeated warnings from the Market District's police headquarters, Salad Balbrise had put an end to such incidents. However, Rue du Rossignol, overseen by Giant Simon, occasionally experienced a few cases. Lumian turned to Rat Christo and spoke.
Any suspects?
None.
Christo lamented.
Damn it, that route is incredibly well concealed. Apart from me and my men, no one in the Market District is aware of it.
He paused for a moment before sharing his intentions.
I need your help to search for clues along that route, using your expertise. I've gone through it myself, but found nothing.
Without waiting for Lumian's response, Franca nodded and suggested,
Let's form pairs to ensure safety during the investigation. Right, I'll team up with CL. There's something I need to discuss with him.
Giant. Simon's gaze flickered between Franca and CL a few times before he recalled that CL was suspected of sleeping with Franca's mistress, thus cuckolding her. Seizing the opportunity to teach CL a lesson? Giant. Simon nodded imperceptibly and said to Blood Palm Black,
You and I will be a team.
Baron Brignier then turned to Rat Christo.
I'll accompany you for your second trip.
After Baron Brignier and Giant Simon scoured the underground route to no avail, Lumian and Franca followed a smuggler into underground Trier.
Thank you so much for listening. Creating these audiobooks takes a lot of time and effort, so if you enjoyed this journey, please consider subscribing to support the channel. Only a small percentage of our listeners are subscribed, and your support makes a huge difference. If you want to hear more light novels, let me know in the comments below. See you in the next chapter.